Hi, Bill.
Hi, Jeff. Welcome to 999 Show. Where
anything in the news?
there is stuff in the news. We're gonna, because it's all doom and gloom, man. It's all doom and gloom, and so we're gonna kind of get right into the gloom here just a little bit, and because I was like thinking about, when I was watching some of the ice raids. That some of the commentators were showing out on X, and people were, kind of talking, and they were screaming. You could hear the ice raids in Minneapolis, and people were screaming and yelling as they're here. That the ice is here, and then hide, lock your doors, hide, and then it was just such a horrible, then there's like the flashbangs going off, and it was like a war zone, and this was like at nighttime. There's the snow, and there's all of this stuff. And then immediately my mind went to some of those alien invasion movies, like War of the Worlds, the one with Tom Cruise. Is his name Tom Cruise? Yeah, that's right, Tom Cruise. Mm-hmm. I was thinking Tom Hanks, but no, I said, that's not right. I've never seen Tom Hanks in an alien invasion movie. But anyways, so it was like that one, and then you had the 2005 one where there was the War of the Worlds machines. They were on those big walking things, and they would come by and they would scoop people up and then put them in this basket, and then doing some kind of a harvesting thing. And so this is what those videos that were posted on X about those ice raids, they just reminded me of those movies, or like other ones. There were some other ones where there's one of them that I don't even remember the name of it at all, but I used to watch it. They would show it like every other year on the Sci-Fi Channel in the 90s, and it was like a long mini series that lasted like 10, 20 episodes. It wasn't 20.
Falling Skies or something like that.
Oh, Falling Skies. I liked Falling Skies, but yeah. All of those, it's really very similar to that. And so I after watching that one, I had a hard time just kind of tuning into any of the other commentators and all of that. Though I did watch Heather Cox Richardson, because she always puts things into a context so that I don't feel so anxious when I get done watching her, because she's a historian, and so if you're feeling the gloom and the doom, it's kind of good to have somebody who has an American history historian to put the news into a context, into a larger context. But anyways, that was kind of what I was going to start, but then Jeff is going to take it off from here.
I just think that everything seems pretty unprecedented, the way it's shaking out together. And I think the speed and the with which it's happening is no accident either. I almost feel like they might have spent the last 5 years crafting a lot of this stuff. And I wonder too, because they pulled it off so fluently and so well, even if things change slightly, there's this thought process among a lot of people, and even Democrats who are probably in office right now, that we are headed toward that whole New World Order thing that I alluded to before, where it's going to become a surveillance state. But instead of easing people into it, Trump wants to go full throttle into it, and it's freaking people out. And it's part of a greater thing here that you pointed to about people's sensibilities are being shocked by this. And even if you felt a certain way about immigration, or you didn't have any sort of feeling either way, I don't think the way they're going about it instills a lot of confidence in other people in this country, because all it does is heighten they're banking on the idea, banking on the idea that the future is dystopian, both parties, because the Democratic Party is doing nothing, and then the pretty much as an opposition party, and and they want to go almost like they want it to go more slowly. They don't want to defund ICE. They don't want to do those things, as far as controlling AI is concerned. So it's almost like they want to lead us into, these fiefdoms and these other things that I see. And if Trump is building a bunker or augmenting the bunker he already has, Mark Zuckerberg in California, I forget which, Palo Alto, he's got the whole town pretty much under him. He's got the bunker. So I don't know. I just feel apocalyptic energy in any way that you can feel it right now, whether we're talking about the AI, whether we're talking about the advancements into the future, whether we're talking about the president, whether we're talking about our jobs, whether we're talking. So to me, I know people say to me, well, everything is apocalyptic to you, because it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, so I was like thinking about this, and I was thinking a little bit about Bashar and some of the Bashar prophecies about and what the Bashar prophecies that in this year and in 2027 is when open contact is going to begin with aliens coming in and showing. So they've been coming in. They've been coming in for centuries, but that these stargates and these portals are going to be starting to open up, and they're just going to be coming through, and they're be revealing to us, and that this open contact is the thing that is going to prevent humanity from being pulled into that dark hole of darkness. And so, like, there was that Next Level Soul episode that I watched multiple times. I think it was about a month ago now, and where they were talking about the agenda of the light and the agenda of the darkness. But in the agenda of the darkness, it was some of the powers that want to pull humankind through this small dark hole of darkness, and that is the unrestrained AI. That is all of these things to be pulled, and then which means that if we go down that path, most likely it will mean the extinction of humankind within like 100 to 200 years from now because of everything. But if the other path opens up, then we go into a different path, which would be the path of the light, and that would be we would gain a different future. We would become a galactic civilization eventually, that we would be taking over. We would first start would be the Star Trek future is what would unfold after that. So it's either like these alien invasion futures where we are being harvested for our data, harvested for this or that, or it's another future.
Every indication, though, of what I think we've gone into, unless this is a big blip on the radar, and there were indicators that were a little more positive every now and then, because I think the institutions can't really sew this together the way they are right now. I think our institutions are falling apart slowly. So I'm more inclined, if it's 100, even if it's 100 years from now, I still think that the things are in motion to get us. I'll be gone, so it won't matter in 100 years.
Yeah.
But for those people that bring children into this world or have younger children right now, I can't imagine what they must be feeling looking at this, going like, wow, I mean, having to raise a child's hard enough, but imagine if like anger and resentment and darkness and all of that is a foundation of a child's life. You know what? And then it gets more detached and more automated as we go along. It's completely dehumanizing anyway. Before humans are annihilated, it's dehumanizing anyway on some level. So I really think that either way,
well, that could actually explain why, if humankind is going down into extinction, that could explain why other animals are starting to gain self-awareness right now. The next high intelligence being is in the process of being born, and so what's going to replace the, you know, what is it that what's the next thing? Is it going to be like the crow, or is it what animal is going to ascend into a place of a different level of evolution? What's the next Adam? What's the next Eve going to be? Is it going to be the dog? Is it going to be the cat? Is it going to be the bear, or is it going to be the crow, or is it going to be a lot of different animals that are now, I think that are becoming self-aware, and this energy is present, and so forth. And so, you know, whereas maybe a decade ago, most dogs didn't recognize their mirror, their reflection in the mirror, but now they can. Or, you know, or elephants can recognize themselves in the mirror, and other animals can do that. So the self-awareness of the animals in the animal kingdom is starting to happen. And so maybe that is a sign that it's a sign that either we are heading into that agenda of the light, or we are going into this other path, and then there is another. It's like Star Wars. It's like Luke in his last meeting with Yoda, and welcome Fatima, welcome Desiree, and it's like, oh, he's not the last Skywalker. There was another Skywalker, so he's not the last. Luke is not the last hope. And then so where you know, in this one you have this amnesia of that Obi-Wan has in that episode, where he doesn't know that there were twins, but then in the you know, the episode 1, 2, and 3, the third episode of Star Wars, there was twins, and the twins, you know, there was Leia and there was Luke, and Obi-Wan took Luke to Tatooine, and someone took and then someone took Leia to where they went to. But nevertheless, you look at that, this was maybe, in this sense, that this is not the end of the story for planet Earth. It's just maybe the end of the story for some of us. Yeah. And again,
you know, one of the paths is that Darwinian law of the jungle path. I mean, it seems that there are more paths for dark things than there are for good right now.
Yeah, but then is it that when you're looking into that black mirror, is the light hidden in the darkness?
Could be. It could be. The absence of light is darkness. Yeah, it could be. Or it could be an opportunity if we seize it. But yeah.
Well, whatever, it's not. Nothing's going back to the way it was. It's just going back. It's going someplace else. You know, I think it was Cash Peters was talking a little bit about. Have you ever tuned into Cash Peters before?
I have.
And so I think he's talked about a future like that, where where AI continues to dominate and dominate until people start to fight back, because where it dominates, it goes where, you know, where a people fight back thing is the collectively forbidding smartphones until people are like 18 years of age, because we see right now, because of, you know, because COVID did us absolutely no good as a you know, and now we have like young kids going and hitting into the school system who don't know how to read or write or think for themselves. And so my buddy who has had his kid in private school the whole time, and going into a Jesuit high school where they aren't allowed to have those devices in the classroom with them. When they come in the door, they get checked at the office, and at the end of the day, they get their phones back, and so that there's none of that stuff going on. And then when was it yesterday, the day before yet, whatever day, I think it was Tuesday, when I went to the eye doctor, somehow I got on this conversation, and he says, "Oh yeah, with our children," he's got, I think, 3 or 4 children, and his wife had decided that when they get their driver's license, then they get a dumb phone or just a flip phone that just does texting and only. And then when they turn 18 or graduate from high school, then they'll get a smartphone. But then before they get released out into the wild, they will go over internet and all these kind of things, which made me think that they must have been some kind of a really super strict religious people.
If they don't even know how to do that now. Yeah.
But but that was like for the sake of like, okay, you're not exposing your kids to the TikToks and everything else, which completely destroys your attention span. And so like one of my 2026 goals has been to try to read physical books again. And I can tell you that it's been really rough, but I've been trying. But yeah,
it is hard, and it's even easier to read a story online than it would be in a book. It's easier to read it in the Kindle, I think, than it would be in a book right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, to me, it's like, you know, you look back maybe at a time where there was promise, and it could be that the idea of promise was always illusory. There was never really any promise. I mean, this sounds really, but I mean, if people are tuning this out on purpose, if they're tuning out the possibilities because they don't want to hear about it, and they think that state media is not reporting on these things because they choose not to, they're either missing the boat together, and they're in denial about what's really going on. And they need to come to some of these shows online and see the brutality, because you're not seeing it on the big 3 networks. Or what they need, or what they willfully need to do is what they're doing now, and they're doing it in this community to some degree, is just keep doing psychic readings of how things are going to improve, and they just don't. And one of the things that I find tremendously disruptive to reality is, because I don't believe in an objective reality. I think we all are on our own trips. But when our collective consciousness is bombarded by falsehoods or by we all get different parts of the story, so that's one thing. But when it's all, hey, everything's going to be great, that tells me that there's some disingenuous component to this, and the media is complicit in it. And I understand it. If we're going to be vaporized and not in a bunker, I probably wouldn't want to know either, because you're not going to know when it happens, and you certainly aren't going to be able to do anything about it. On the other hand, though, I feel like these conditions that have got us here that we didn't know about for years, whether it's, and it started, in the 70s to some degree with climate change, and they kept the cap on that as far as, letting out what could potentially happen with it until Al Gore got involved and all this stuff. Like, I think that the train had left the station long ago, and I'm not really, we're all focused on what this is now, but even the people that aren't focused on it now probably willfully are ignoring it because they've seen the writing on the wall too. And even the billionaires see the writing on the wall. So I don't know what they expect to do in the apocalypse.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what this apocalypse is, because, I don't know that, is it going to be nuclear annihilation, or is it just a slow change, in a collapse of civilization? Because if we get those 150-degree heat waves that pass through, well, that's going to be because they talk about that we're like 50,
We're 50
from now,
years away from it, like where you get raised if we go by 2 degrees more within the next 50 years, we're going to have all kinds of problems.
And so it's highly likely that if I'm trying to spin this with a feel-good thing, because I'm kind of one of those feel-good people, because I'm very hopeful about the future, because I was thinking of again, I was thinking of the Star Trek universe, but the Star Trek universe, they went through a hell of a lot of strife before there was change for the positive. And so there was a nuclear war, there was all kinds of things happened, and then there was a eugenics war and these kind of things. And then there was first contact. And when first contact happened, that's when the whole consciousness of humanity changed. And so when we go to the Bashar prophecies, and a lot of the people, thinking that, because there was, I guess I was listening to another one of those channelers just this morning, and that was about kind of the same thing, as that that the presence of other life is going to be coming into our reality soon, and what that will do is it will change everything. And so that's with the whole first contact and open contact, not contact in the dark, not contact where you're getting ripped out of your bed, and at 4:00 in the morning and taken up into a spaceship and having the anal probe or whatever else that goes on with that, to quote South Park, to go to the, sorry, my mind went to the South Park image, but with Cartman and the probe, and then a big huge satellite dish came out of his arse. You remember that episode?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. Yeah. Sorry, I had to liven things up a little bit here. But hit the live. But nevertheless, you have that, and the South, but you have the whole thing, the abductions, because as I've talked about it before, having had alien dreams, and I've had dreams of being on board of those spaceships, but I always kind of thought I was having panic attacks in my sleep or something like that, but I don't know.
No, I was just thinking about something that kind of made me a little bit leery. It was that I don't know where people go when they look, when they look to history to try to define things. There are always new precedents. And I feel like what we're experiencing now is a new precedent, because with a president in this precedent, it's just, and all these other things going on, I don't feel like it's, granted, I haven't lived forever, but I'm certain that if you brought somebody from a different era into this, I don't know, and that's why I think probably there's so many holes in that Constitution too, Bill, that we're seeing those for the first time. You talk about things being revealed.
Yeah, it's the whole mirror on society. I just want to just do a little side here. John from up in Canada posted a comment exactly at 4:44 p.m. my time. I just had to say that we got an angel number came through, and 444 is stay the course. We're going down the right path.
Oh, it is. It's foundational. I know that.
It's very foundational. But I just wanted to point that out because this 999 show, and that was 444, and 444 is probably one of those common numbers that I see. 444, stay the course. 111, make a wish. But maybe Jeff, it's like when you have a lot of the positive people, and this is putting a positive, putting positive energy out into the system rather than just dwelling on the negative, because you have like that whole power of prayer thing and the intention of the prayer thing. And so when my grandniece was going through cancer therapies, she was born with it, but when she was like between 3 and 4, actually it was over a course of like 20, almost a year and a half for 3 different rounds of chemo. And then, but there was like this extremely huge prayer list and prayer chain of all kinds of people who were praying for her. And there is that sense of, people talking about that we put that energy out there, and it does have a positive result to it. There are people who talk about that. You might be skeptical about that, and maybe myself being skeptical about that, but maybe that was what was meant to be. But people spending time and praying for peace, or trying to put that light out into the world, that maybe that actually does something and helps if we think about adding more light into the world. And so maybe a lot of the people who do these they're in the prediction game or whatever they're doing, their predictions, and they're predicting for a positive future. Maybe that's just all about trying to put positive light into the world. But then again, you get that,
Yeah, I suppose it could be. And I can't begrudge the people that watch that, because on 2 levels, it validates the people that are presenting it that way. But also, when there's that collective energy in such high numbers on these channels for those types of shows, it will manifest the right outcome. It doesn't seem to be slowing it down, though.
Well, then there's another thing.
Maybe it is.
Maybe. But then there's another thing that keep popping into my mind here is opiate of the masses. And I never read Marx, but my dad did. My father read it, but because he would be talking about that in terms of religion being the opiate of the masses. And then so maybe what we're seeing here is a lot of people distracting themselves in things of spiritual things and so forth as a means to that this is the new sort of a way to placate yourself, or to not face the reality.
And that would even be better than that's even better than when people do the political reads and if they're really legitimately getting it, that's a more amazing and great thing. I don't see it, but when they're getting these positive reads on it, if they really are, great. But if they're not, it's disconcerting in a way, because if they are working on the spiritual side of themselves, the viewers, then they have all these options in these channels where people are doing niche stuff for that, whether it's shadow work or whether it's other stuff. But on the political side, it gets difficult, because if you want to go willfully blindly into the night, if you know what I mean, then you're going to have to forego any reason, any logic, any sort of pretext or pretense of what is around you and what you're seeing. And that, to me, is almost like being in its own cult. It's cultish, and we already have enough division, so we're playing right into it. I mean, we're feeding into it, and
yeah. I actually haven't been watching those political readings at all.
I watch
simply mainly because of yeah. I know I occasionally tune into Linda G, the Comanche. She's probably the only one of them that I do, and occasionally that one astrologer guy, and then, but you see, all of those guys, they had, when they were reading about the election, they all got the wrong. They didn't come up with the right result.
Yeah.
Every single one of them, and so
unless she did win and it was stolen.
Yeah.
But I would think that would have shown too somehow.
Yeah. Maybe. Well, there was one. There was one that she was kind of saying, "Oh yeah, but then he's they're gonna like find some things, and then she's gonna get inaugurated in like April or something like that."
Yeah.
And then I was like thinking, no, you're going down that hole. That was just like how it was with QAnon and everything else, and with that pillow guy, because he was talking about that for like a year after Biden was elected, and then eventually they're gonna find and then the rightful president is whatever's gonna get inaugurated, and so I was thinking when that person was going down that path, I think, that I've seen this story before, and I think you really shouldn't be indulging that energy.
It could be that we've checked out mentally, and that could be why. It's the end.
What was that?
We've checked out mentally, and going to the 5D means checking out and waiting. I wouldn't say passively, but I would say maybe our collective consciousness is fried from this world, and maybe time. It's through the ascension to work on those things to get out, so that when the day does come, not of judgment, but just of annihilation, we can be those pillars of light that we were meant to be. I don't know. That's the only really positive I can think of, and that almost harkens back to the idea of nothingness. I mean, imagine nothing. It's impossible, because by its very essence, it implies something. So, I go back and forth on this, but really, I mean, if I were looking at the way the world is going versus ideas of what it could be or who's in power, I would pretty much say we're screwed.
Yeah. Well, but then if you look at, I guess the way I've kind of checked out, in some sense, where I've been watching a lot of myth vision, but more or less I've been watching Elaine Pagel's lectures on things like the Book of Revelations or Satan or other Gnostic Gospels and so forth, And while I was looking through my books, I found one of the books that I was like looking for, and this one is my favorite. It's it's the Gospel of Thomas, but it is both in it's both in Greek, and it has the Greek text on one side and the English text on the other side. It's a standalone thing. I got this like used a lot of years ago, and yeah, that's right. I paid $5.95 for it at a used bookstore in a small town. Not the small town around here, but the one that I was living in during that time. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I still don't. I guess I just have a whole lot more hope that we're not going to be launching all those nuclear weapons.
What is the hope? Well, politics is one, right? And even still, no disarmament. People are Iran is having to nuke up. There are so many things wrong in so many parts of the world right now that I believe this too. I believe that our leader would take us down with him before he goes. I believe Putin would take down his country before he goes, rather than be cornered and go quietly into the night. That he would go quietly into a night of eternal darkness. But I really do believe that. I know you're not necessarily as sold as I am on the idea of good, of evil and demons and all that stuff, but I really do believe that some of these people are controlled by forces of darkness, and they're meant to be here for as long as they're meant to be here, to push as far as they can go for a reason. I just wish I knew what that reason was to end it all. You know.
Well, if you look at the Book of Revelations, and and if you look at that on a cosmic level, that they're here in order to bring about a new world. That's what they're here for.
A way they're here to ultimately. Is there any parable in there where the world isn't saved in that scenario? I'm trying to think.
I don't think in the biblical
having something come out of the good, or something good
come out of the bad. It's not. What ends the book ends with a new heaven and a new earth coming into being. So yeah, Fatima is there with you as far as like forces of darkness and so forth. You know, and I think but then, because the why else would they be here except maybe, you know, if that's like in one fashion, or
Do you remember when all those statues were crying in the 90s, Bill? Like all over the world. I don't know if it was the Virgin Mary or what it was, but there were sightings of, you know, crying blood from the Virgin Mary and all this other stuff. And I'm wondering if it has to do with this time now, you know, or the trumpets and people would be on their computers and they would hear trumpets sounding. You know, so.
That may be. I've heard about earth noises and things like that, and there's a huge mystery about what that is. But now, if we go to another of these stories, which is one of those sub stories that comes with the whole alien phenomenon, and them coming, and that they hang out around like missile bases and places like that, and where the mythology is that they're here to turn those things off, or they have turned them off, and because that
I've
they
heard that
have,
too, that
and
they've
so
done that with Russian power plants and things like that. Yeah.
so
Heard
it
that.
may be, Jeff, is that they're gonna maybe try this, but it may not be annihilation. It just may be like one or two goes off, but then it ends up disrupting civilization greatly. And
Okay.
and so in bringing
I would
things to
accept that.
bringing things to a halt, because just like during COVID, when they when they shut the economy down, and then you had a lot of the air clearing up and all these things, and so like one or two of those very large nuclear warheads going off would be the equivalent of like a of some, not a super volcano, but a whole bunch of volcanoes going off at the same time. And so where probably one, even just one or two, one here, one there, it would have the effect of having an extra long winter that lasted like 5-6 years, but not a, it would have that kind of an effect. And maybe one of the byproducts of, once all the radiation, everything settled out, that that it dropped the overall Earth temperature down by 2 or 3 degrees.
But people would die, right? There might be I would
Of
think.
course.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but but that would be a total nuclear winter. But Fatima is right here with me, and that has that the light side always wins, and so good. I got somebody on my side. Yay,
Well,
yay, yay.
and even if that's true, it could be through resurrection or rebirth or the death of one thing into another. And that's a sad thing to see happen. Not necessarily some of these institutions that need to go, but some of the things with which we're comfortable, or when things were gentler, because we'll be formatively changed by this as we sink into it, whatever it is. And I think some of us grew up before this period and knew of a time when the institution of presidency wasn't, debased.
Well, exactly. So it's like the time that
when you have a Francophile, potentially for entertainment purposes only, maybe, as your president, you've totally. I don't see how going forward anyone would respect the president. I mean, I just don't. I see the institutions going. I see that going.
Well,
I see the Supreme Court going. Who's going to listen to them?
Well, okay. So the positive of this is that not just us, but for climate change perspective, is that industry has to happen locally, and with whatever it is, you can't be running these container ships across the ocean and everything. You can't have this happening, or a positive would be like 10 years in the future, instead of having yes, the United States isolated for a while, but then the next thing you know, that someone else starts to take leadership, and then you have maybe Canada takes leadership, and the next thing you know, there is a North American Union, a true North American Union that is like a European Union, or it's not just North American, maybe it's all of North America, all the way from the tippy top of Alaska, of the Arctic Circle, clear on down to the bottom of Chile, clear down there, and where you have you have this union, and so if you want to work in Chile, you can go to Chile, and you don't have to have a passport or anything like that. You just go. You just make the arrangements, and whatever, you got a job there, you go and you got a job. And then, or if you're in Mexico, I want to go to Greenland, and you go. If you're in wherever, and so it's like you want to, okay, I'm bored with Chile, let's go to Paraguay, or let's go to Colombia, or and then you get up to be around 30 or something like that. I want to have some kids, so let's go back home to Virginia, have some kids. You know what I'm saying? So it's something like that, so they can see their home, or wherever, or you're going back and forth. This is kind of how I kind of vision, that step towards that planetary government that has come from the.
I think that's a possibility. I think I think right now the reason the Democrats are sort of acquiescing to what's going on is, I think the trend around the world is going to be more surveillance, more technate, more of that stuff. And ultimately, they're careerists too, Democrats. Yes. And I think what it is just about that system having to fall to Congress, because and I think with truth comes pain, and I think that's also another thing that we're having to deal with through these things we're learning, and that's yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe we can talk about this the next time, but I was like thinking about, well, how are other ways that you could organize a government? And I've actually have often thought about like, okay, well, maybe we don't need a president anymore. Maybe we don't need a Congress anymore. Maybe what we need is to have that stuff done by the governors. You have a council of governors and regional things. And then if you need to have these people, then you elect them out like jury duty. And it comes out of every single demographic. And so maybe you get in where maybe you just task the AI to say, okay, well, these are the people, the council of people that are coming together to do this next task. And we are we're gonna call you up for a year. And you're going to go to Washington, D.C., or wherever the new capital is. Maybe the new capital will be in Texas, someplace warmer, or down in Florida, or maybe it'll be in Hawaii, or wherever, someplace else. And you just hop on the plane, and it's you're doing that duty, and you're going to go be a part of the federal government to go solve a problem, and to pull people, just a different form of democracy, where but where a lot of it is just run on autopilot. And so if you're taking about, let's say, your social programs, well, maybe what's just is if Alabama wants nothing, maybe what is just is to give them nothing. And if like 15 states want universal health care or a single payer, well, they get that. And it's on a state level, and to fund that stuff on a state level. But that's kind of how I kind of think about these things, and because of because sometimes what you think of what justice is is not necessarily what because you know, when you look at like restorative justice, well, what does that mean? But restorative justice also has a free will and a free will component to it. But you can't really do restorative justice if you got a whole bunch of people who don't want it. You're forcing somebody to do something they don't want to do. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. No, I get that. And I feel like on some level, though, what you're getting at is the states that would go ideologically more keep the government out, or more, you know, conservative or red versus blue, splitting off into one another. Because I feel like right now, the way it goes is you have one half of the country that hates the other half. And I believe that also, I feel like, and we're siloed too. We have our own ideas that sometimes are probably embellished by what we watch. But you have one part of the country that is embracing falsehood, embracing things that are flipped. My whole theory about yes is no, no is yes, what's good is bad, what's bad. So that's another problem where I really struggle with the idea that we can get out of this. Because not that everything has to have morality, Bill, but the very structure with which we deem what is moral or good now is being, I wouldn't even say corrupted, it's just changed on a whim.
Yeah. Well, then there's that guy, Stephen Schwartz, and I he's like a remote viewer up in Washington State. Now, I don't know what I think about remote viewing, but you know, but what kind of things that he had seen in looking ahead is he didn't see no nuclear war or anything like that. But what he did see is that the United States being still there in form, but kind of broken into like regional provinces, something like that, where you know, maybe the West Coast, because you know, people on the West Coast are more similar. They're you know, because the West Coast was settled for a lot of the people. They was settled the last, and you know, where you're at, it was settled before. So the people on the East Coast have a similar mentality, and the people who settle on the West Coast, they have a similar mentality. And so where, you know, and you know, with from, you know, from, because it have that, is because it has that person who left, a lot of them, they left their families behind in Chicago to go pan for gold in San Francisco, or they went to Alaska, and it was that type of person that settled a lot of the West Coast. And or you know, I like have my relatives that came, and I found that journal. I didn't bring it here. I have it, but where I think I'm going to do a program where I'll just go through it. It has a full accounting of one of my relatives who came out from Ohio and came on the Oregon Trail on a covered wagon in the but I think they came in the 1880s. But they came, and I think that what they did is they took and I have to go read through it to find out for sure is that they took a train from Chicago, or they took a train from Ohio as far west to Sacramento, and then from Sacramento they took a covered wagon up to Oregon City. But they came in order to try to get a professorship at Pacific University in Forest Grove, because they were Congregationalists. He was to get a job. He came out for a job, but then once they got there, the job wasn't there. But that was the type of person that settled, you know, and that settled, came out west, and then or that same person who would get on a ship and go across the sea, and then or then or that same person who might just get on a ship and never get off of it. They what for whatever reason they live in Portugal or something like that. It's 500 years ago, and maybe there's not enough mates out there, or maybe or whatever reason they don't feel they want to settle down or whatever, and so they get on a ship, and then next thing you know they're like in China or someplace like that, and maybe they get off at China and say, well, I'm done with this, and or whatever.
Yeah. I see that. I mean, you're envisioning a world maybe a little more than utilitarian and more ideal.
Yes.
Yeah.
The thing that keeps popping into my head is that a world where energy is produced locally, it's not moved in on large transmission lines, it's not shipped across states. The electrical energies will all be produced locally, whether it be by nuclear reactors or solar or wind, but it'll probably be a combination of those three things, and then there would be something that we haven't even thought about will come into existence, because the positive aspect of AI is that it's probably going to there'll probably be some kind of a thing that what it might be is that because this was I've read an article about this last week about, in the lab they figured out how to make time run backwards.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yes. Time run backwards, because they seen it, and so in an experiment they were able to reproduce this.
That's interesting though, but that's different from going back in time.
No, it's just run.
Is it?
No, it may be a step towards that. So that is a step towards that whole theory that the gray aliens are human beings from the future coming back.
But when they're experiencing it, are they experiencing it like in one little synchronistic flash where they're making time? You know what I mean? Is it time travel, Bill?
No, they're running these experiments in microprocessors and in computer chips.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
So it's totally electromagnetic. It's totally electromagnetic. It's an electromagnetic thing, but that doesn't mean that it's not a step in that direction. So if you look at, let's say, the movie Interstellar, I watched that a few times, and where the premise of it, I don't know if there was a novel. One of the things I hate about those movies is that a lot of these things are really vague. Skyline was one of those ones that was extremely vague about, and I read the novel, and then I was still just as flummoxed about it because it was just as shallow as the movie was. Where the UFOs came, and then there was a light, and then the people were sucked up into the spaceship, and got the whole rapture theme and so forth, and then their brains were harvested by the aliens, and anyways, but then there was like this whole there was the movie. The idea was very, very thin. There was no real character development, and then I read the novel, hoping I could get some character development, get something. There was nothing. It was nothing. And so I guess what I'm saying, what was I saying? I was like, so some of these things. Oh, dang it! I lost myself here. What was I talking about before I went to this?
About
example?
How a chip with
about how things run backwards, but where it's just a matter is that I think that a lot of these things we just can't imagine it, and so when they do these these sci-fi stories or whatnot, they don't have any, especially when they're doing the movies, because they don't have enough. They can't imagine the time travel, or they can't really imagine it. Of course, we had a Terminator. You had H.G. Wells with the Time Machine, and going forward and going backwards. You had, my favorite of all of those was Back to the Future. And you had that second one where you had where they go forward, it goes into Biff's world, and how Biff's world, the dark world of where Biff is in control of the world. And
then you had the one recently with, although it's cornier and more of a romantic comedy, Zac Efron and Matthew Perry, 18 Again, where Matthew Perry is, I think, the older version of Zac Efron's character. So,
I don't think I've seen
you
that
wouldn't
one.
like it. It's, because
Probably.
you don't like, if you don't like romantic comedy or cheesier stuff ever, you wouldn't like that.
Well, I've watched a lot of cheesy stuff. I mean, I watched this week. I watched a Robert Redford one, and I watched it 2 nights in a row because I really wanted. It was called A Walk in the Woods, where it was based on a novel written by a guy. I think his name was Bill Bryson. And in the novel, of course, the guy's 40 years old, but in the movie Walk in the Woods, he's more like 60 or something like that, where he decides he wants to go walk the Appalachian Trail. And but I knew a guy up in Seattle who wanted to do the Pacific Crest Trail, and he was like 65, 70 years old, and that was the last time I saw him. He said we went out to go hike and he was like on a walking stick, and but then he settled down in Arizona where his kids were at. But he had run an open mic for years, and yeah. And anyways, we've gotten way off base here, but we should probably talk about. I think it might be kind of interesting to talk about theoretical government forms that might actually work better, to get your mind off of the gloom and doom.
I wonder, anarchy state at some point.
An anarchy state,
not hypothetical.
Oh yeah. Okay, where I was going for is how I had seen kind of things was energy produced local, food produced local, and where all of these big farms are broken up, and then down into smaller like 40, 100 acres plots, and where you just open them up for people to go to become farmers. And so you have instead of so you open the cities up, and so instead of just and then maybe a different form of sharecropping or whatever you want to call that, it'd be just like that, but it would be like you're offering a different lifestyle for the people who want it, because there may be, I would think there's upwards of like 30% of the population that would go for something like that, go for an adventure like that, where you get a piece of land, and you're going to work that land, and you just work it just like and you have these are the resources you have, and to make a go of it, because it's like a big giant reset. It's a jubilee. I see, I guess, as a biblical jubilee happening. Because, you look at that 35 trillion or $37 trillion national debt, because how are they going to deal with that? Well, I did watch a show on that, how they think that they're going to deal with it, because at the end of World War II, we had a massive national debt. And then when the British Empire fell in 1956, they also had a big giant national debt. And the way they dealt with it is they expanded the money supply out. So instead of $1 being worth $1, now it's worth 90 cents, or maybe it's worth 70 cents. You know, so our high prices, everything is going to continue on high prices until that debt is no longer $35 trillion. It's going to just be whittled all the way down into more of a net. Yeah. So essentially, we'll be having a jubilee, and then like there's been like some talk in there where they feel like they're going to be needing to forgive student loan debt. Because if AI goes forward and if unregulated AI goes forward and it takes 9 out of 10 cognitive labor jobs away, then you know they have to do something about the massive amounts of debt that people have, the credit card. You know, so it's like we are in a place where we need a jubilee. We need to have because like in the Bible, anyways. Red Mike, welcome. And where in those biblical days they had talked about every 50 years there was a jubilee, and where the debts were forgiven and the slaves were. I do not remember you, sorry, but when was the last time that you, Ren Mike, that you came on into one of my chats?
He maybe me. He might remember you.
He does remember me.
Yeah, he doesn't remember me. I was here 2 weeks ago, I think, at most. You know what I mean? Like no longer than that.
Yeah.
You subscribe to my channel.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, subscribe to our channels. I keep it was about a month ago. Well, welcome back. Welcome back.
Welcome.
Yeah, my turkey's gone. The cows are back.
Oh.
The cows are back and the turkey's gone. I was really missing it. Turkey's been gone for a week. And I think it went back with the rest of its buddies. The 25 or whatever for the rest of the winter, and then hopefully it'll come back. I don't know. So you got to go. It's the end of the day for you, Ren Mike. Well, thanks for popping in for just a few minutes. And so I got to get going myself, and and tomorrow night I'm gonna have
with Ali. Yeah, I
you have
it on my it's on my channel. Yeah, the reading the Riot Act readings. Reading the Riot Act. It's just personal readings, and it could be political. Usually we kind of feel it out and see in which direction it goes.
See which direction it's going to go.
Yeah.
Well, tomorrow night I'm having Moon Scarab on, and we're going to talk a bit more about Eric von Däniken, because Eric von Däniken passed away 2 weeks ago. And I figured that, and Eric von Däniken made a huge impact and as far as bringing the ancient alien theory into our world. I mean, somebody else would have done it, but he did it. And then that was picked up on by other people. And I found this book. This has one of these ancient maps that had, these was the maps of the ancient sea, where these ancient maps that shouldn't exist, and where they think maybe some people think that either we were a seafaring, we knew more of the seas than before, or the aliens picked people up and showed them, where Antarctica was, and showed them these things and the existence of these things before, and because there's a belief that Christopher Columbus or his brother saw one of these maps, and so they knew that there was another continent out there before they went sailing. Anyways, that was just something else. So we'll come back next week with a rabbit hole of some kind. I don't know exactly. I think I did make up some images, which I like. And let me see if I can show you one of those. Let's go. Let's see if it'll come up. There's a this one here is kind of dark. Actually, this is a that's not that one. I want to go with let's see, which one was it? There was, oh, that's on the other device. Oh wait, it's this one here. It is a rabbit standing in front of a rabbit with some strange glowing symbols around it. And I thought, well, you know, rabbit holes are fun, and so what we're going to do next Thursday is we're going to go down rabbit holes, and we'll figure out what we'll do when we get here.
You got it.
Rabbit holes, and rabbit holes. So if it's positive, if it's apocalyptic, it's that. If it's not, it's not. We'll just go down rabbit holes, and we'll have a try to bring the tone down from we're all going to die, the sky is falling, and we want to bring it down from that down to something maybe more fun, maybe more more intellectual, more imaginative, and whether it be whatever. How about that?
You got a deal.
All right. We'll see you all next Thursday at about 4:30-ish. And then I'll be back tomorrow night talking about sky gods. And Jeff will be on Allie's channel, and they'll be doing personal readings.
Go buy my book, everybody.
Yeah, get his book. Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Bye.